my humble salutations at the divine lotus feet of our dear Lord. I would like to wish at the very onset a very, very, very happy Ugadi to all the devotees of our Swami and all those who are watching this video. In fact, by tradition, the southern states in India and a few other states, they celebrate their beginning of a new year on this day. For example, Ugadi stands for a new year day for Telugu people and Kannada people. And the Maharashtrians celebrate it as Gudi Padwa. There is different nomenclature given to the same day, but the spirit is the same, is what I would like to say. However, here we are concerned about what is the spirit that we would like to have as the devotees of Swami, as the children of Swami, in order to celebrate this day and then make life itself a celebration from here. Swami says that Ugadi, as it is said out in Telugu, also refers to Yugadi. I mean, if you added a Y-U and G-A-D-I, Yugadi, Yugadi. Yugam is an era or aeon. Like, we have the Satya Yugam, we have the Treta Yugam, we have the Dwapara Yugam, and we have the Kali Yugam. Yuga refers to a long length of time. And Yugadi means the beginning of such a long period. What should be such a beginning? And why do we celebrate it every year if it is at the beginning of an aeon? Is the whole point. We have to understand, sisters and brothers, that whenever any one of us, chosen children of Swami or any devotee, turns a new leaf in their spiritual life, and when they start back for the purpose that has been created for them on the path of, again, re-emergence into their own self, it can be called Yugadi. That's the most beautiful spiritual essence of this day. And of course, it has a lot of symbolic significance as far as the secular life is concerned. For example, Telugu people, when they celebrate their Ugadi, they have what is called Ugadi Pachadi, or a pickle, a kind of mixture that is prepared, a concoction that is prepared by mixing up about 6 flavors, 6 different types of flavors. Each of them represents a taste. For example, sweetness, bitterness, and then so on. This is very famously called Ugadi Pachadi. And almost everybody who celebrates this festival in Andhra Pradesh, that is which is the land of Telugu people, Andhra and Telangana, they have a little bit of this pachadi at the beginning of the day, even before they eat anything else. After they take bath and then they offer their praise to the Lord, they take a little bit of this pachadi and then they start the day. Symbolically, it means that life should be a mixture, an even proportionate mixture of all these kinds of tastes. For example, the sweetness might indicate goodness of life. The bitterness might indicate a little bit of bad experience in life, and so on. So in order to say that life is a combination of all these things and it has to be taken in that way, it is indicated through this pachadi. This way, there are so many meanings that come out of this. However, when we are concerned, I would like to say here that the Ugadi for us gives about 5 important Mahasutras. Pancha Sutras is what I would like to say, which I would like to put it by the acronym UGADI, meaning Ugadi. Acronym. Each of the letters UGADI representing something, a Mahasutra that has been given to us by Swami. So what I intend to say, dear sisters and brothers, is that by trying to live that, by trying to live the Mahasutra that Swami has given us, we would be indeed creating a Yugadi for us, or a great era to start with, which will be a spiritual renaissance, is the entire essence of this program today. So as we go by, I would want to expand on each of these letters of the acronym and then explain a little about what it really means to us and how do we practice it. So let's just start. The letter U stands for unity of thought, word and deed. And Swami said, this is the unity that is the most required thing for each one of us as we go about trying to achieve our purpose in life. Unity of thought, word and deed many times has been delineated by Swami this way. He said, Manasekam, Vachasekam, Karma Ekam, Mahatmanaha. Manasanyam, Vachasanyam, Karma Anyam, Duratmanaha. It almost brings to our mind a contrast of two different kinds of characters who live very differently. Let us just, for example, take the Kauravas and the Pandavas. Right? So, the Kauravas are the people who probably think one way, say one way, act another way, just because that suits them to that situation. These are the people perhaps who are looking for more comfort in life. Commitment is the last word that they would like to really think about. They do, of course, exhibit a lot of courage in terms of arrogance and then adamance, but they are not the people who show that self-confidence to say that I can stand for something. So therefore, this is a losing behavior. And on the other hand, we have Manasekam, Vachasekam, Karma Ekam as given by Swami. And of course, who else? We think of Pandavas or we think of a Lord Sri Rama. Always the way they think, they speak, and then the way they speak, they act and follow through with the action. So these are great traits as we see that help any one of us as we go by to create this Ugadi. The Manasekam, Vachasekam, Karma Ekam. Normally in any new year, for any new year, there is this practice of picking up certain resolutions, and people try to live up to the resolutions. For example, we know that a lot of people try to take care of their health in a new year, or they take care of, they try to set up certain goals for them, and they try to achieve the goals. Maybe it may be in the form of a financial goal or a learning goal or whatever. So this is what people do in New Year, and then it is also seen that quite a few of us fall down. When I say quite a few, maybe 9 out of 10 people, we fall down without having continued or consistently putting on with the effort for the goal. So much for New Year resolutions. However, the kind of resolution that we need to make when we take up these Mahasutras of Swami, it should be different. It should be according to the injunction that Swami has given, which says that if you want to achieve the purpose of your life, you better be united. Swami says we are always a combination of, for example, 3 gunas like the Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. If these 3 gunas, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas, if they were not combined and united in us, we would not be a personality at all. However, based on the balance that we can create between these 3 gunas, or in fact, based on how much more we can invest into superior gunas like Sattva Guna, our entire character would be based on that. And there's a reason why every personality is different, but certain personalities are preferred when it comes to we wanting to stay with them or emulate them or be their friends, etc. So if we want to be helped and then be of some help to the world around, we would have to focus on ensuring that the story starts from the manas, and which is like that sattvic thought process that we start. When the thought process starts in a sattvic way, obviously the word that comes out tends to be more sattvic. And then the word, when it is more sattvic, it also follows that the action would be more sattvic. And this would be the least hurting to people in this world or any other being. When we behave in such a way that others feel safe with us, and others are not really threatened by our presence or our existence, I think we are really living up to what Swami asks us to be in this world, be an example and then be a role model. We can think of any number of great people, like I talked about the Pandavas and then the Kauravas, who are always trying to go by 2 distinct paths. I mean, in fact, these 2 paths have been given even in the Upanishad. In Kathopanishad, we find Lord Yama teaching Nachiketa that there are 2 distinct paths. He starts off the Upanishad this way, in fact. And then he says there are 2 distinct paths given in this world called Shreyas and Preyas. And Shreyas refers to a behavior whereby someone takes the path that is good for them, that is the best for them in order to reach the purpose of life. It need not be comfortable, it need not be pleasurable now. And the Preyas refers to the pleasurable path, which need not probably take me to the purpose, but probably just ensures that I have a good life here, I have a cushy life here. And in today's world, we know that much of our entire structuring of the life takes us more towards prayas and then less towards shreyas. And in order to have more shreyas in life, I think Swami asks us to have a very clear mandate about what is that you want and then go. So there's a very funny kind of incident that is often talked about, that someone peeps into the railway reservation counter. This used to happen a few years back. These days, of course, we have online reservations happening. But a few years back, when people used to still go to the railway station and then to the ticket reservation counter to book their tickets to make it travel. So the person, it seems, looks into the counter and then passes on a few hundred rupees and says that, can you give me a ticket in first class? And then the person there, the clerk, puts his head up and says, but where do you want to go? He says, I don't know where I want to go. I just know that I have to go in first class and I have to go in a train. The clerk doesn't meet more funny people on a daily basis. So he looks up, smiles and says that, but sir, unless I know where exactly you want to go, how would I be able to give you a ticket? This sounds funny, but that's the way life seems to be. We all have set off on a great journey. We want to travel in first class, which is like the comfort that we want in life, but we do not know where exactly we want to go. This is a very striking metaphor for me, and the ability to know where we have to go, what is the destination, makes things much more clearer. You know your destination, you have wherewithal to travel in first class, great, go in comfort. You know your destination, and then you travel in a second or third class, little uncomfortable, but still great, you are going to the same destination. You don't know your destination, but you're ready to travel by first class, no good, because you might end up in a place where you do not want to be. Now you've traveled comfortably. You don't know your destination and you end up going in second then third class. It makes no difference, it's all suffering. At the end of all the suffering, you still are not at the place where you want to be. So when we look at this kind of combinations, we find that it is much more difficult to make the unity of thought, word and deed if we are not aligned on the purpose that Swami asks us to be aware of. And purpose for each one of us as we start a new year, Ugadi or Yugadi, is to be merged back with Him, to reach Him, to always be with Him, to realize that there is no difference between He and us. So this is our venture, this is our objective and goal as we start on this New Year journey. So we completed till now one of the letters of Ugadi. Now let us observe the second letter in the acronym of Ugadi, G. G, I would think, stands for the Mahasutra. God is now here. In fact, most of you would recall that there has been this famous Chinnakada that Swami had given us, wherein somebody who is a doubter, a doubting Thomas, asks a saint, I don't find God anywhere, God is nowhere. So he writes it on the blackboard saying, nowhere, N-O-W-H-E-R-E, nowhere. The saint smilingly just gives a space between W and H and says, God is now here. Okay, so the implication is that the highest of the truths, the most absolute power that is there in this entire universe, or which makes the entire universe, is right here. It is right now. We don't get to see that, right? So there are a whole lot of reasons why we might not be able to see that. However, our life keeps shuttling between this faith and non-faith on whether God exists or not. So some of us say when God is now here, some of us say no, God, we agree that God is there, but God is somewhere far away, or God is hidden, and so on. And an avatar descends actually to show that God is always now and here. Now refers to the time sense, time dimension, and here refers to the space dimension. So God is now here refers to both space and time dimension, wherein we can find and experience Him right here. Now, talking about faith and talking about always the conflict between those people who have the faith and those who do not have this faith, I'm favorably reminded of this story of Prahlada. We all knew that Prahlada, as it was depicted in Bhagavatam, is the 5-year-old young boy who is the child of Hiranyakashipu, who happens to be such a powerful monarch, Rakshasa king, a demon, who the entire world feared. He had everything in his control. And people even stopped worshipping God according to the fable, because he just ordered that you can't worship a God who is not seen. You'll have to worship me because I am the most powerful. So such was the influence and then force of this demon. And what was God's remedy and what was God's miracle? His own son, Hiranyakashipu's son, Prahlada, who was born in his house at the age of even 5 years, turned out to be completely against an opposite character who completely believed the immanence of God. He would be in fact always so happy, and then for him, whether he drank milk or he did any of the other small things that any young boy does, an infant does, this boy was always so God in everything. And he was a blessed boy, of course. This is not possible so easy for everyone. But he was a blessed boy because it is said in the Purana that even when he was in the womb of his mother, Lilavati, the great sage Narada, who was a divine saint, and then he taught the Narayana Mantram to that lady, and then Prahlada happened to listen. And thereafter his entire life was only the Namam, uttering the Namam. Such was the great faith of Prahlada that he believed in the immanence of God. And that climax moment came where there was this fight between the faith and the non-faith. And what happened is that faith won, because Hiranyakashipu asked Prahlada, well, you keep claiming that there is God. I have not found him anywhere. So the so-called Vaikunta I went and then I found it empty. So-called Kailasa I went and I found it empty. I couldn't find God anywhere. Can you show me where Hari is? Hari referring to Vishnu or the God principle. And Prahlada says, what can I tell you, Dad? The 5-year-old boy says, what can I tell you? I don't find a place where he is not. I mean, the Telugu poem in that, written by Bammera Potana, he says that I don't find an inch of place, not even a minute fraction of space here where he is not filling up. So this is the contrast of the faith. And as the story goes, when Hiranyakashipu says, can you show me the Lord in this pillar, for example, which is to say that it is an inanimate thing, it is a completely inanimate thing, and which is called Jada in Sanskrit. And in that pillar, Prahlada says, well, he is also in the pillar. Is not only, see, human beings are Chaitanya. Instead of asking, can you show me God in you or me, Hiranyakashipu asked, can you show me the God in this pillar? That shows the Viswasam, or the way an atheist thinks or a materialist thinks. And the spiritual person that Prahlada was, he said that he is there, of course, and he is also everywhere. So that's the most beautiful answer. And the story goes on that Hiranyakashipu just gives a blow to the pillar, and the Narasimha avatar, it emerges from the pillar, and the rest is history. Whatever the story might be, significance for you and me today is that as we start the new year, is that there are many situations where through the animate and inanimate situations in our life, we are required to have the Vishwasam, we have the faith that God is here and now. What does it do? It enables everything that we to be divinized. The work that we do, the tasks that we do, the people we meet, the relationships that we have, everything gets divinized. And when it gets divinized, we are able to actually approach, see Swami and feel so happy. There is a Nishkama Tattva that comes because we see that God is asking us to do and God is the doer, and so on. So such a wonderful state of elevated beingness we get if only we can live by this principle that God is here and now. So we have observed two principles till now, friends. The first is we can achieve our purpose in life in this Yugadi by having unity of thought, word and deed. And then we can achieve it on a daily basis by believing in the principle of God is here and now. We'll go on to see what is the third principle as it comes up in this acronym. The third letter in the acronym called Ugadi, U-G-A-D-I. And the letter, of course, is A. And the Mahasutra we take from Swami is, as you sow, so you reap. As you sow, so you reap. Swami has explained the same thing in many ways, in many of his discourses. For example, in one of the discourses or many discourses, Swami went on to say that if you sow mango seeds and you expect lemon fruit, would that be possible? He says. So this is like, as you sow, so you reap. Now, where does our focus need to go? Of course, our focus needs to go into what we want to reap. If I want to reap mango, I better sow mango seed. But if I want to reap lemon, I better sow lemon seed. And if I sow mango seed but expect lemon fruit, I think I'm insane. Because somebody said the definition for insanity is doing the same thing but expecting different results. So that's a good definition too for insanity, is what I feel. In a particular way, all of us who are caught up in Maya, in this illusion, are insane in a particular way, is what I also feel. Right? So coming back to the principle, as you sow, so you reap. We need to understand that it is like beginning with the end in mind. We need to be very clear even before we act, even before we think, even before we say a word, in terms of what exactly is the outcome I'm driving to. And then I start my process right here based on what I want to achieve. I think it's going to be a simple, beautiful path for anybody. We complicate things because we start off one particular way and then we keep on changing based on the situation, right? So let us look at certain characters in the old age, in the Puranas and all, to understand how this whole thing works. In Ramayana, we talk about Vibhishan as a great character. Vibhishan was essentially a very sattvic person, and Swami said in his book Ramakatha Rasavahini, Swami had described that Vibhishan stood for sattva as a dominant guna or quality, and Ravana he stood for rajas or rajasic quality, and Kumbhakarna, who most of the time was inactive and sleeping, stood for tamas. So these three were three brothers to the same mother. So it shows that the mother Prakriti, who's actually, we are all children of mother Prakriti, we are part of it. The same three gunas are in all of us. So there is a Vibhishana, there is a Ravana, and there is a Kumbhakarna in each one of us. However, depending on which quality or which guna we trigger more, so shall be our personality and our results in life, right? So if we want to have a great sattvic life and a calm and peaceful life, it's very clear that we need to trigger Vibhishana in ourselves. And if we are okay for a very eventful, achievement-oriented, but full of passions, that kind of life, maybe Rajasic Ravana would be okay. And then if we want to just eat and sleep and have a great slumber, maybe Tamasic Kumbhakarna should be okay. Okay, now talking about Vibhishana here, the reason why we think he has been extolled as a great devotee of Lord is that though he was born in that family and he is a brother of Ravana, younger brother though, Vibhishana was very clear about the character difference between Ravana and Rama. And he took multiple opportunities to tell Ravana that he should be returning Mother Sita back to Rama. But Ravana wouldn't listen. And then ultimately, in those numerous occasions when he was trying to advise Ravana at one point in time kicked him out, and then Vibhishana at that point in time thought it's enough he had. He came back all the way to Lord Rama, and then he joined the troop, or he joined the group of robbers, which means that he joined the satsang. He actually came back to the place where he belonged. So a situation comes in all of our life when we stand by dharma and then we start moving away from adharma. In fact, there's a very interesting discourse of Swami where he had alluded to this point, that he, contrasting both these two epics called Mahabharata and Ramayana, Swami took up two characters from both. And then Swami talked about Bhishma from Mahabharata and then Vibhishan from Ramayana. And then he said, you see, Vibhishan, he left even his own people for the sake of dharma, which is the Lord, who actually in that story came from a family that is outside. Whereas Bhishma, he understood what is dharma. He knew that he should stand by dharma. He was such a great person. But for the sake of the word that he has given, he could not forsake his own grandchildren or whatever, and even had fought the war against dharma, dharmic people, for 10 days, and then caused a lot of trouble in that Mahabharata war. And so when we contrast both these characters, Swami said, be more like Vibhishana and not so much like Bhishma. Of course, this is not to degrade the greatness of Bhishma in any way. It's just to say that more important than trying to protect our own vows that we take or pratignas and all that. What is more important is to do the right thing for the society and the environment around us. And that is what Vibhishana did. Since he was there along with Rama, finally when Ravana had to be killed, it is Vibhishana who gave away the secret of Ravana to Rama, according to Ramayana, and that's what made the difference. So it matters which side we take. In spite of Rama being such a powerful avatar, he took the help. He acted as if he took the help of Vibhishana in order to conquer Ravana. So such is the importance of standing by Dharma, is something that comes up. Vibhishana knew that as you sow, so you reap. He wanted results of Dharma, therefore he chose to quit Ravan and then move out in spite of what the world thought of him. So this is very important. Another example that we can think of is Karna from Mahabharata. When we look at Karna, Karna was a very dharmic person. He knew what is Dharma. And he knew that he was a great person in all ways, a very talented person, very capable, and he was capable of being actually a king. And then everybody knows that he was the elder son of Kunti, and then therefore he could have been a king if he was on the side of Pandavas. Not only that, he was a great philanthropist. He did a lot of charity, and then this took him to great heights, as we know, to the extent that when Lord Indra comes to him in the form of a Brahmin and then tries to snatch away the Kavach and Kundal, which were natural to him, which were protecting him, and as long as he had those things, Arjun could not do anything to him. Nobody could do anything to him. And knowing that this would make him vulnerable, this would make him weak, he still chose to give it in charity. This is the greatness of Karna. Such a great person. However, he was always in a dilemma on whether he could choose Dharma openly or not. He again stood for his own weakness or the vow that he had taken that since Duryodhan had done favors to me, I owe my life to him. And he fell for that. And ultimately he couldn't realize what he wanted in life. And Krishna, he couldn't come to the side of Krishna. And Pandavas, who were not as capable or as talented as Karna, still benefited and won the war because Krishna was by their side. So all these stories from the Puranas tell us that it's very important for us to be very clear in the process of doing something, to choose what we want first and then sow only that, so that we'll be happy by the time it comes to us. So this is a beautiful understanding for us in this new year. Let us move on next to the next one that talks about the fourth resolution or fourth Mahasutra for us. Now we come to the fourth letter of the acronym Ugadi, D. D here stands for the Mahasutra, dedicate all your actions to him alone. And that is dedicating our actions to Swami. Swami many times has said this in his own beautiful inimitable way. Swami says, Sarva Karma Bhagavat Prityardham. It means whatever actions that we do, we have to dedicate them to Bhagavat Prityardham. We have to do in a way that it is offerable, if that word can be used, or it is something that is liked by God. Every work that we do, pretty much like every river flows towards the ocean, Swami says all the actions done by people have to flow towards the ocean called God. That's how Swami puts it as a simile. What does this mean for us? In order to achieve our life purpose, in order to have a great Yugadi, what does it mean to dedicate our actions? Well, when we don't dedicate our actions to God, we invariably dedicate it to something else. Now, it doesn't look like in our day-to-day world, when we do work, we dedicate it to anything. But just take the situation. Most of us work for something or the other. Every work that we have certain objective, either to satisfy ourselves for self-gratification or to gratify somebody else. And of course, it also finally ends up that when we try to gratify somebody else in this world, again that is to gratify ourselves. Because in return, we are looking for either wealth or we are looking for fame or recognition or whatever. So it comes out that we almost always act only to dedicate it to something else, Anatma, than Swami. Here, there can be technical doubt that comes up for Vedanta, students of Vedanta, because students of Vedanta would ask, but everything is Swami. So what what is wrong if I'm dedicating it to, for example, my boss or somebody else? We see in the lives of great devotees like Potana or Tyagaraja, we find that they've had very interesting situations in their life where they were faced with this poignant question where they had to dedicate it to some king, the local king, was demanding that either the works that they have done, the Bhagavatam that they are writing, or the great works, the Krutis that Tyagaraja was writing, everything, they have to be dedicated to the king. And that's what everybody would do in those days, because that was the maximum recognition for the talent that people had in those days. When we take somebody like Tyagaraja, there's this famed situation where the Sarabhoja Maharaja sends him a lot of gifts ahead of time, and he says, please accept these gifts and then come and then perform in my court, be a part of my court. A very nice way of asking him to dedicate his works to him. And Tyagaraja says, I can't do that. My works are dedicated to the Lord. And there is a great kriti that came out of his mouth at that time, and Swami loved it a lot. Nidhi chala sukama, Ramuni sannidhi seva sukama. This is in Telugu. It means that which is more comfortable, which gives you more joy and happiness? Is it nidhi, which is wealth or prosperity, or sannidhi, which is seeking refuge in the Lord? All those who have understood what is the importance of submitting or surrendering to the Lord and therefore being taken care by the Lord would know the difference. For some of us, if we are not yet surrendered, it's not that easy to know the difference, because it looks like an ideal when we talk about it. It looks like a good thing to talk about when we just say that we need to, Sannidhi is more important than Nidhi. Because our actions are completely opposite. On a day-to-day basis, we are more interested in wealth, in order to see that anything that we dedicate in this world, it generates more wealth for us, makes us more famous, and then gives us more recognition, etc. I'm not saying that this is wrong, but this priority cannot create a Yugadi for us. If we are looking for a Yugadi, for a renaissance, spiritual renaissance, we need to dedicate our actions to Him. And there are certain wonderful stories that Swami has given in Ramakatha Rasavahini, the story of Rama. There is a beautiful allegory, a very beautiful insight that Swami gave, which I want to explain as briefly as possible, because there's a lot of thinking that each one of us can do on this, and I would request everybody to go through Ramakatha Rasavahini to really experience this part. There was a situation when Rama was on this side constructing the bridge along with the help of the monkeys in order to reach Lanka. And the bridge was being constructed over a stretch of almost 12 to 13 kilometers across the sea. And in those days, it would be an engineering marvel by any standard, even today. But in those days, those people chose to build the bridge. And the story goes on that Rama, when he was a little angry with I'm just making it very brief, with the Lord of the Sea, who Samudra, for not giving way when actually Rama was even requesting him. Samudra comes and gives the idea that, oh Lord, there are two such Vanaras in your retinue, Nala and Nila, who are architects amongst monkeys. They can easily enable you to build the bridge, because for three reasons, he says. One is that whatever they touch and then they throw into the water tends to float. Now, there's a story also behind that. We need not get into the story, but maybe we can talk about it very briefly. That in their childhood, these two, the monkeys that they were very naughty. And there were some sages who were actually doing penance there. And these children would go, two monkeys would go Nala, Nila, and then they would take away the lingams and all those things that these people were using in their worship, and then they would throw them into the water. And when the saints knew that, every day they would go and then pick them up and then come back again. So it was becoming a daily burden for them. So now their children, they did not want to curse them. So they cursed these two Vanaras, but in a very nice way. They said, hey, because they were children, they said that, hey, whatever you throw into water, they cannot go inside, they won't sink, they'll float from now on. This was an interesting curse. And then when that curse happened, from that day onwards, wherever actually it was thrown, anything was thrown by Nala Nila, they would float. And therefore, today that is coming for the advantage, Samudra said, let them throw anything. And then second thing he said, let each Vanara take a stone, a big boulder or a tree or whatever, and then they write Rama, Sri Rama as the name on that, and then they give it to these people, Nala Nila, and Nala Nila throw, and therefore it can float. Now these are two things that he said. And the third thing he said is that as a duty of mine, after they are thrown, I'll ensure that they all are intact and then come together to form a path. Because as one would understand, even if you are able to throw boulders and then trees into the water, even if they are floating, but with the flow of water and all, they will get strewn away. Therefore, they all have to be tied together, and that part is done by Samudra. It's a very symbolic story, Swami says. Swami says, the Nala Nila are like the creativity and imagination that are there in all human beings. Because they are thoughts. All thoughts are like monkeys. And then these thoughts are there, the two thoughts are there which are like very capable thoughts, supervisor, creativity and imagination. And when we do sadhana in order to reach the other shore, which is like reaching Parabrahma, we have to have the creativity and imagination, that touch which will help us in making things float. Otherwise, if we are sullen, if we are disappointed, our efforts are to go into gloom. Second thing he says is that every Vanara, they pick up their a boulder or tree is like the task that we do on a daily basis. Each of us are doing something in the world. But writing the name of Sri Rama is like dedicating it to the Lord and then throw it. So into the Prakriti, or that is the sea, before they threw the stone, they wrote Sri Rama and then it was floating. Similarly, when we do our tasks in life and before we throw it away or put it out into the world, we put the authorship of the Lord, saying that Swami, this is dedicated to you, rather than saying that this is done by me, which is called Kartrutvam. It only builds arrogance. But when we dedicate it to the Lord, it tends to float, which means it doesn't submerge, which means it is going to ensure that we are not tied up for that result, which gives us no birth in the next month. So this is the kind of significance that Swami shows in Ramakatha Rasa Vahini about the need to dedicate our actions. And we are no different from these monkeys. The monkeys are known for this fickle-mindedness. Rama took them and then he actually used them in order to kill the Ravana, and then monkeys got emancipated. If this can happen to monkeys, why can't it happen to you and me? And why can't we actually dedicate our actions to the Lord so that it serves the purpose of why He wanted us to be here? So let's try it out, brothers. We've already covered 4 aspects, UGAD. Now we come to I. Maybe it's a good thing for us to put I at the last, and that's how Ugadi is. And then the Mahasutra that we want to refer to, that Swami gives us, is examining the phrase, I want peace. I want peace. And Swami so beautifully says, we say, everyone is saying, I want peace. But of course, Swami also said in one of Hastamuna Anubambu Unsukuni Arjuchunduru Shanti Shanti Anuchu. That's what Swami says in Telugu. Yes, we all hold almost atom bombs in our hands and then we are shouting, I want peace, I want peace. So the large conferences and the conclaves that we do for peace, but in our actions, we are almost like holding atom bombs against person, society against society, nation against nation. That kind of situation we can get into. And unfortunately, there's a situation right now. So Swami gives us a great mantra. We need not, instead of talking about macro things or big things like the societies and the nations, we can just look at our own lives in a small way. And when we look at our lives, we are saying, everyone is saying, I want peace. And that's what, why do you ask someone, why are you doing all this hard work, and then why are you working so much, 10 hours days, and then 36, 35, 37 years of your life, and then what are you doing all this for? He says, ultimately I want to settle down well, I want to see that my kith and kin is settled well, and then but why are you doing all this? And after all, if all this happens, I'll be more peaceful and then calm and happy. So ultimately, every one of us is saying, I want peace. Swami says, isn't it so interesting that this I want peace is like a parcel. It's like that magic parcel where there are various kinds of coverings, and each of the coverings you take and then you throw away, and then what is left inside is only peace. So there are 2 coverings Swami says you need to remove before you come to peace in this phrase called I want peace. So it's a beautiful symbolic way that Swami puts it. And then Swami says, first is remove I, second remove want, and then you have peace. Now, what does it mean? It means I refers to ego or ahamkara, and the want refers to desire or mamakara. And when ahankara and mamakara, the egoism and the want, they are removed, and then what remains is peace. In fact, very symbolically, Swami says in Ramakatha Rasa Vahini that when the young Rama went to safeguard the yajna that was being done by sage Vishwamitra, there were two Rakshasas who came, and most of us know about this, that's Maricha and Subahu. Maricha was a personification of ahankara, and Subahu is a personification of mamakara. In fact, Maricha, the word in Sanskrit means, Marichakamu means it's like a mirage. That which makes us believe that something is there, but actually it is not there, it is illusory. And Maricha was capable of a lot of illusions. And that is ahankara. Because ahankara is a non-existent fictitious thing that is acting as us and then giving us the feeling, giving us a false identification. Where Swami is doing everything, we think I am somebody here who is also doing. So this is the fiction that is happening in life. And therefore, Maricha stands for ahankara. And mamakara is someone, Subahu is Subahu. He has long, big hands, shoulders. And what does somebody with very strong shoulders do? He tries to accumulate things. That's why Subahu stands for all accumulation, everything mine, 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 mine kind of thing. So that is want. And so he killed Subahu. Want is killed. With one stroke of an arrow, Rama first kills Subahu. And with another stroke of arrow, he teaches a lesson to Maricha and then tells, okay, you can exist because as long as you are alive in this body, you can have an ahankara, no problem. It is not dangerous. But ensure that you are, he throws him away such a distant place and he says, don't ever go away from dharma. And it is said in the Ramayana that thereafter Maricha took to the path of righteousness and then was doing penance, of course, until Ravana came back and then threatened him to come back to cheat or deceive Rama. So we find that when both Maricha and then Subahu are killed, what remains is peace, Shanti. And that is what Swami says. So in each of our actions on the daily basis, Swami says, please pay attention. Look at who is doing and then try to, after you dedicate it to Swami, again don't try to have the doership by yourself thinking that I am doing. Kill arrogance. That is the one that separates us from Lord. Second, don't have too many wants, ceiling on desires. Cut it down. Don't try to accumulate too many things for people, everyone and all that. Cut it down. Live with contentment. Whatever God has given, live with prasada buddhi. When you do both of them, why won't peace come to you, is what Swami says. Therefore, each of us want to lead a very peaceful life, and then these are the Mahasutras that we need to really take up in order to achieve the purpose of our life. Brothers and sisters, I started off when I started this program saying that it's a Yugadi, it's a new year, and then we are going to be helped by thinking about the purpose of our life and then sticking to certain 5 Mahasutras that Swami has given us. And with these Mahasutras, we are going to tread our life on a daily basis, and each of them is so practical. So let us just summarize what these 5 are. In Ugadi, UGADI, we said that U stands for unity of thought, word and deed. G stands for God is now here, which means it says feel the omnipresence of God. A stands for as you sow, so you reap, which means be careful about what you want and then focus on the process of doing it. And D stands for dedicate all your actions to God, which means that we shouldn't be carried away for dedicating these to other priorities of life. And I stands for I want peace. Focus on this phrase and then remove I and want, and peace remains. Because at the end of the day, in the process of trying to pursue the purpose of our life, you wouldn't want to forego your peace. So these are 5 Mahasutras which when we remember on a daily basis, they are like resolutions for the new year. Not just like any other resolutions which are taken and dropped, but they are like daily discipline that you and I need to take. They are like daily vitamins that we need to put into a system in order to have a peaceful, long, wonderful sadhana And let's not forget finally, brothers and sisters, that Swami is pretty much part of our entire sadhana. It is Swami who is guiding the sadhana. Therefore, never be discouraged, never be disheartened, whatever might be the situation. Even if you are failing 1,000 times, as long as we are connected back to Swami, Swami is going to pick us up again and then see that we are on the right path to tread again along UGADI, which is Ugadi. So once more, I wish everyone a great Ugadi, and not just a Ugadi, but a Yugadi, which means a great start for a new era in your whole life. And let's celebrate at the end of it with feeling Swami's presence every minute and every seconds. Om Shri Sai Ram.